take a look at a couple of ships that I was familiar with that came out of a New York ship at the time I was there. This is the Guam. It's an Alaska class extra large cruiser, and the second and last of the class to be built. It launched in November 1943, nearly 2 years after keel laying. It was commissioned in September of that year at the Philadelphia Navy Yard, which was just sort of down the street from where I lived at that time in Philadelphia. She sailed from Philadelphia to Ulithi in March of 1945, and when she joined famed Task Force 58, one of the most powerful task forces in naval history. She joined her sister ship, the battlecruiser Alaska, and 3 other seasoned cruisers, 4 airplane carriers, the Yorktown, Intrepid, Independence, and Langley, 2 battleships, Missouri and Wisconsin, and 15 destroyers. Task Force 58 was the long-range naval striking arm of the U.S. Pacific Fleet during the offensive against Japan in World War II. The Fast Carrier Task Force had replaced the battleship-oriented Task Force of World War I. Guam's baptism to fire in the Pacific came in a major engagement against Japanese carriers and land-based planes in an attack on the Japanese airfield on the offshore islands of Kyushu and Shikoku on March 18th. The Japanese drew first blood with 5 kamikaze attacks on the carriers. During the first engagement, the carriers Enterprise and Intrepid were damaged, but continued the bombardment. The task force then moved on to almost 3 months of continuous operation in support of the invasion of Okinawa. Right?
Yeah.
After Okinawa, the Guam was made flagship of a cruiser task force of its own, Task Force 95, which consisted of its sister ship, the Alaska, 3 other cruisers, some aircraft carriers, and destroyers. It was charged with clearing the waters around Japan of all shipping on which it depended for support for the war. This was accomplished in July of 1945 without loss of the ship. The Guam received 2 battle stars for her services in World War II. The next picture I wanted to show you is the heavy cruiser CA-131, the Fall River. You may recall that I was the launching officer for that ship in 1944. I'm sorry, in August of 1944. So by the time it actually was operational in a productive way, the war was over. But it was coming into operation at a time that the Navy was looking for a ship to be in charge of some nuclear bomb tests. And so it was selected to round up a target group of 90 ships. These are old U.S. ships, some foreign ships, captured ships, to be the target group. This was a big operation. You couldn't do that right off the United States or off Japan or somewhere else, so they picked a spot in the middle of the Pacific, the Marshall Islands. There's a big lagoon called Bikini Lagoon, believe it or not, and all the ships were ushered there, rounded up, taken them there, and positioned within the lagoon. There was a
Was there just the one test done, blow them up?
there were 2 tests done. obviously you had to get rid of had to take all the personnel off if you didn't want to lose them along with the ships. So they were positioned about 10 miles away on another island in the Pacific with the so-called support group, which was itself was 150 ships and some 4,000 people. And these were all technicians, and they had labs and all kinds of stuff there, as well as bunking facilities for all the crews that were taken off the target ships. So the first test consisted of a B-29 flying over and dropping a bomb, a nuclear bomb, on this fleet group of 90 ships, which it did, and surprisingly it was not too effective. They did sink 3 of the ships, but the amount of radioactiveness was minor and was easily cleaned up with the crews as they came back to the ship. So the second test was going to be an underwater test, 90 feet down in the lagoon. So once again they had to evacuate all the crews, and they set off the second bomb. That was devastating. It not only sunk 10 ships, but it also, the radiation was awesome. The whole lagoon was radiated. It was, the ships were uninhabitable for a long time. So in order to hasten it, they actually had to tow all of the ships out of that lagoon to another island, where the water wasn't all contaminated. And then in short spurts they could do their inspections and measurements and so on, which they did. So that was the end of the test. It took considerable time to check all the results and make sure that everybody themselves were decontaminated, and all of the badges read as to how much radiation they had absorbed when they got back. Then the fleet was sunk, the remainder of it. So,
And there never, not much was said about it though.
and there was not much published about the results, so presumably the Navy learned a lot.